Alright guys, anime smash or pass, we're doing 3. Who's first? Smash!
For my money, Attack on Titan may have the best opening songs in all of anime. The first 3 are absolutely epic, patriotic anthems that get you hyped for every single episode and immerse you in the cause. The 6th twists the initial formula in an incredibly unique and creepy direction, and the final one is probably harder than any of the others. The 4th opening, though, Red Swan, is commonly regarded as the weakest of the bunch. But after watching it one time before even having seen the show, the song immediately made an immense impression on me. There's one moment in particular in this opening that rips my heart out every time, and I believe it defines one of the most important cruxes of the show perfectly. Oh, and the 5th OP is just kinda mid, to be honest. Attack on Titan drops you into episode 1 with the same lack of knowledge as its characters. You start the story seeing life through a young Eren's eyes, in fear of the Titans and their incredible power, watching them decimate everything humanity has worked to build. It would be insane of somebody in this context not to hate and fear them. Over time, though, you begin to realize that these Titans are far from the only threat, and a grand political web of warfare is revealed to exist outside the island.
Bruh.
Combine this with radical changes in character arcs, a new animation style, and a bevy of new characters altogether, and the latter half of the show grows to feel like an entirely different universe from the first. Amidst this chaos, questions of the main character's morality become much more prominent, and by the end, it's hardly even a question at all. The still rising death toll of their actions tearing at them as they begin to doubt their unwavering conviction. At some point, the questions you ask as a viewer stop being along the lines of, "Oh boy, how are they going to defeat the Titans and get out of this one?" and start becoming more along the lines of, "How many civilians will have to grieve innocent loved ones because of this battle?" I mean, look at Zeke's plan, which literally was oriented around maximizing peace. This obviously creates an enormous emotional burden, and different characters react to it in different ways. Levi, for example, doubles down and tries to give meaning to the deaths of his comrades, while Armin deals with immense survivor's guilt after not only sacrificing civilians for his goals, but directly being a cause for Erwin Smith's death as well. And Hanji goes out in a self-destructive blaze of glory just to die for a cause she believes in. This world can be overwhelming, to put it lightly. Of course, anybody would just want to return to a time when they knew what was right and what was wrong, and could wholeheartedly hurl themselves into the fire of battle with no regrets. While misinformation and distrust are themes from episode 1, they get decidedly more pronounced as the story wages on. These themes inspire a search for truth spanning the show's entire runtime, which culminates in Eren becoming endowed with incomprehensible knowledge of the world through the Attack Titan. While he keeps moving forward, it can kinda seem like he has no idea if he's even going in the right direction anymore. And his final decision is kinda... Precisely in the middle of the show, though, in the 4th opening, as he is about to acquire this knowledge and the story prepares to take a major turn, we encounter this stunning visual of Eren Jaeger. It's so simple yet so captivating. The sky whizzing through the background as the camera remains fixed on an oblivious Eren, staring limply, enamored by the sky which surrounds him at all sides, gazing out into the future, utterly paralyzed. A youthful version of himself bumps into the entranced Eren while playing around, but Eren's gaze remains unbroken. The child version is confused and examines his older self with curiosity, a character once defined by his unwavering determination, frozen like a statue, surely feeling like a betrayal of his younger self, unable to even acknowledge him. It's almost as though Eren is just watching the passage of time through the sky's movement, that very same thing which separates him from who he once was. This opening consistently utilizes the very powerful imagery of the kid versions of this show's now combat-jaded characters who, at this point in the story, are grappling with literally offing other humans. This is especially emotionally impactful considering how much this series evolves over time as new information recontextualizes the character's actions. The idea of betraying your younger self is one of the more tear-jerking concepts in media, at least to me. In this case, it totally overwhelms the viewer with nostalgia for a simpler time in the series. Season 1 Eren, for example, is oftentimes a self-destructive fireball, willing to do anything and everything for freedom. He's motivated by the rage of his traumatic past, which empowers him to pour his soul into defeating his enemies and finding peace. The push and pull of the government and scout regiment trying to use his incredible power and emotion to actually progress towards freedom and not just self-destruction is one of the more interesting aspects of the earlier show, like when the scouts have to initially prove that Eren can be more of an asset than a liability in trial. Eren operates off of his emotions, which can be channeled righteously, and he becomes a hero because of it. But after venturing outside the walls, Eren finds innocent people inevitable to be caught in his crossfire, and it begins to weigh on him. This visual is presented just before Eren ventures outside the walls, but this opening is a foreshadowing of what's to come for his character, as evidenced by the lyrics. His absolute focus represents to me how he loses himself as a character, unsure of which way to turn. Once a freedom fighter, disillusioned to his own lack of free will, it's powerful to see him just utterly in shock. I don't think Eren ever stops wanting to be a positive change in the world. He still wants to fight for freedom and the friends he cares about above all else. But it's no longer as simple as fighting giant naked monsters for the good of mankind. Eren must now commit to a side and do effectively horrible things to people to reach his end. All of the determination and positive intentions in the world can't override the reality that being a good person at this point in the story, at this point in Eren's life, is no longer a simple, clear task. I mean, 80% of the world seems pretty easy to avoid. For a while, I was nervous to make this video at all, because what hasn't been said yet about Attack on Titan? So many people smarter than myself have already covered this topic in depth that I couldn't fathom, but I haven't gone through and watched a majority of these videos. I've actually always had a problem watching AniTube, where some videos I see, usually when the person seems much more knowledgeable and passionate about a series than myself, where I just can't bear to watch it. The pain can be excruciating, as melodramatic as that sounds. It's like it zaps my brain, paralyzes me, and makes me feel, well, pretty useless. I grow up and try to look past it, let it motivate me, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't difficult. If I'm so insecure, though, that I can't bring myself to finish an anime video, how could I ever expect to make a real positive difference in the endlessly complicated world I find myself surrounded by? I oftentimes feel this same paralysis I see in Eren. Sometimes I don't know where to start. I don't know what direction to move in, but I do know that all roads lead to pain. There is no simple path to happiness and no simple path to virtue. If the younger me were to run into the confused husk I often feel like I've become, I wouldn't blame him for not recognizing himself, and I probably wouldn't bother to take any notice of him anyway. As Eren was producing his own proverbial anime YouTube video, he caused me to sit and ponder a couple of questions. Most importantly,
is far and away the best defense that
Eldia
has had, right? I mean, is it possible that they could ride the D? The defense?
Okay.
I mean, I certainly don't believe that Zeke's plan of totally riding the D out would be the best course of action for Eldia, but I can't help but think there may be a more morally defensible outcome than wiping out 80% of the planet. Attack on Titan raises two absolutely ingenious courses of action for the Eldian people to find peace. Either, let's wipe every Eldian off the face of the planet, because if there's none left, they can't have bad lives. Or, nah, screw that, let's just wipe out pretty much everybody else on the planet. Now, these are two extreme and cartoonish plans, but this story is about commitment. Committing to a cause and chasing that cause to the grave. Yet, Eren low-key ruins Earth by adhering to his commitment, and Mikasa's resolve to break her own and move forward saves the day. Maybe there's something to be said for the idea that we are our own people, and not just the extension of who we were as naive kids, forming our idea of what's right and what's wrong, and what we ought to do. Interestingly enough, the author of Attack on Titan, Hajime Isayama, revealed that he wanted to write a different ending, but was tied down by a commitment to the original finale he'd envisioned so many years prior, stating, "It would have been nice if I could have changed the ending. Writing manga is supposed to be freeing, but if I was completely free, then I should have been able to change the ending. I could have changed it and said I wanted to go in a different direction, but the fact is that I was tied down by what I had originally envisioned when I was young. And so, manga became a very restrictive art form for me, similar to how the massive powers that Eren acquired ended up restricting him." This is really powerful to me because the dreams we have as children or young adults are things we hold especially dear to us. To give up on your initial goals or dreams feels like giving up on who you are, and it makes that a very difficult decision to make even when it's clearly necessary. If we cannot align ourselves with a new, more informed cause, we will end up defaulting to what we were taught by society as children, and make decisions like, well, children. As Eren loses himself, so does the story, and low-key so does Isayama. He realizes that, for whatever reason, he's resistant to standing by the original conclusion of the story that's being told. Rather than him committing to a new direction, though, it feels like he just kinda sticks with a direction his heart isn't totally in and more or less commits to nothing. A clean wipe of Earth and a somewhat defeatist outlook on the future. Isayama, I feel you, man. If you're a self-aware person, it can be incredibly easy to not want to commit to anything, instead opting to constantly poke holes in ideologies before they can get off the ground. I'm sure that Isayama recognizes the essential desire to devote oneself to some sort of cause, but at the same time recognizes that it makes devils out of people. There was something inside of Isayama that made him resistant to committing, despite him obviously wanting to take the story in a bold direction and make a statement. This kind of tug-of-war leads to paralysis and rage. A rage fueled by the constant passage of time and lack of progress. A rage which drives Eren Jaeger to scorch the earth. It's difficult trying to be a good person and constantly checking yourself about being wrong, but at the same time, it's undeniably necessary. In the end, Eren's seemingly unbreakable spirit leads him down a path of apocalyptic conquest, and he has nobody to blame but himself for the way it all turns out. With that as a possibility for the future, it's no wonder he once seemed so paralyzed. It's funny that even my thoughts on this show seem to be fairly simple before it all became so complicated. Coming to a crossroads in life is part of becoming an adult, of course. It's a time when you must commit to a path and leave behind certain things that you want in order to go on to be a good and fulfilled person. It's not so simple anymore as just having a good heart, and that's pretty scary. As an outro, I want to circle this video back around to that 4th OP, and just read these lyrics because they're incredibly powerful to me. Like the scarlet night veiling the dark, you can hide your fear, can lie, my dear. Dreaming as it is, spread your bloody wings, fly to heaven. Under the moral travesty of war, it's difficult to see up from down. Eren kept moving forward, kept flying, but it turns out that he was flying down to hell the entire time. If I may quote Isayama's interview one last time, I believe he very eloquently summed up this entire story when he says, "Like and subscribe to the anime guru." Wait, this can't be right. Jamie, is this the right image? Enormous shout out to my patrons for supporting and motivating me, by the way. B, Some Goon, Some Gooner Bro, Trey, Godfather, Hermit's Nook, Artemis Locke, and Cartiphilus. Thank you all so much.